So it's blowing my mind that they're once again trying to do a film adaptation. In this case, a 10 episode TV adaptation, 10 episodes of Neuromancer, a book whose primary appeal is the prose. If you have not read Neuromancer, go do it now. Um, it's an amazing book, and you can finish it in an afternoon if you're like sort of an average speed reader. Um, Structurally, and in terms of like the plot structure and the things that happen, um, and Gibson is very direct about this. It's just a very conventional noir thing. Um, in terms of like the function of everything that happens. Nothing in there is going to be surprising to somebody who's read some Ray Chandler. Um, it's just got like sort of this SF coat of paint. And the coat of paint is interesting, okay? I'm not going to say that it's, not interesting some of the science fictional elements that Gibson introduced. Um, the thing is, immediately after Neuromancer came out, a million people copied all of those science fictional elements and did them pretty well. A million people also copied his writing style, generally did not do as well with that because they are not as good at writing. Gibson is a very talented writer, and the particular way that he writes is interesting because he'll write all of the prose in order, but every day when he starts writing, he will proofread everything that he's written thus far. And so the very first thing that he writes in any work is incredibly polished. And then because every day while he's working on a book, he is editing the beginning of the book every day. And then by the end of the book, that doesn't need as many passes because people have already bought in. But this is the reason why the first page of Neuromancer is so iconic, right? So go ahead and read that. But yeah, all of the things other than the writing style that were a big part of Neuromancer's popularity were immediately cloned and are now like not notable as unusual things. We just call that the cyberpunk genre. Now Gibson, there are other reasons why you want to read the Sprawl trilogy or the cyberspace trilogy or whatever you want to call it. The three books that take place in the same universe as Neuromancer. That's Neuromancer, Count Zero, and Mona Lisa Overdrive. They get more conventional in terms of on, but that stuff is largely not present in the first book. The first book is a very conventional kind of heist plot set in this future version of initially Japan, but then most of the book takes place along the east coast of the United States in what they call BAMA, the Boston Atlanta Metropolitan Axis, which is to say, the southern half of the east coast of the United States. And yeah, it's brilliant, but all of the brilliance would be completely lost if you're watching a film version, because it would just be another science fiction movie. I also have no idea how they're going to try to extend it out to 10 episodes because as much as you know, it's easy to cringe about people chopping things out of books to make them fit into an hour and a half of. You can do that with Neuromancer, and it's not a big deal because it's, again, like, structurally it has the plot of a pulp novel, uh, and you spend a lot of time on, Gibson using this poetic language to set up a mood. You don't spend a lot of time worrying about the plot because the plot is not the point. Um, it basically it feels a lot to me like trying to adapt a Shirley Jackson book, which people have done. Um, you know, the Haunting of Hill House miniseries is not really an adaptation of the Haunting of Hill House, but it's great, right? Um, the Robert Wise movie is great. Um, but not only are none of those substitutes for reading the book, um, they just are inevitably going to pale in comparison to the book because The Haunting of Hill House is one of the greatest books in American literature, and much like with Neuromancer, has that iconic opening line and gains so much from the language and so much from the style. Um, and so like there's almost no point in reading in watching a Shirley Jackson adaptation other than to say, oh, well, this is how they handled that thing from the book. Oh, I would have done it this other way. For instance, do not watch the film version of We Have Always Lived in the Castle. No point, because We Have Always Lived in the Castle is entirely dependent upon the weird, cringy first person narration. The only way to do that in a movie and have it be meaningful or satisfying in any way is to do constant voiceover, and they didn't, right? Um, you can't even get away with that in Neuromancer because Neuromancer does not have first person narration. Neuromancer is uh, the language is very poetic, but it's you know regular limited third person omniscient. Um, so what are you going to even do, right? If you take the language out of Neuromancer, it's just another derivative cyberpunk thing. Um, Even though it's arguably like the first, right? I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. I haven't seen the adaptation of the Peripheral that Amazon did. Um, so who knows? Maybe they've figured out in the 25 years since they tried to adapt New Rose Hotel. Maybe they finally figured out how to do a Gibson adaptation to film that isn't shit. I'm not holding my breath for that.